How's your mental health? I'm listening with Dr. Christine Moutier.
The way the culture is changing around mental health is amazing. There's this open-mindedness now to understand that part of being human is mental health. It's this incredible, I would say, just like a burgeoning area where we can all learn how that works for us and for our loved ones so that we can just be so much smarter. We can take the stigma out of the whole conversation, let alone if we need treatment.
Explore more at imlistening.org.
Paul and Jordana, thanks for hanging out with us. David at the helm. So last Friday, the Minneapolis City Council voted to approve language for a ballot initiative. So if you live in Minneapolis, you're going to see some new verbiage on the ballot in November. It reads this way. Shall the Minneapolis City Charter be amended to strike and replace the police department with the Department of Public Safety that employs a comprehensive public health approach, which would include licensed peace officers, which are the typical police officers you and I know that carry a gun, if necessary, to fulfill its responsibilities for public safety. So they want to know from the citizens of Minneapolis if they would like to replace the police department with the Department of Public Safety that doesn't get rid of all police officers, just may cut down on the amount of them, or replace some peace officers with, trauma-trained folks or psychotherapists or somebody else. This is a huge debate. People don't know what to do. People are afraid to go downtown. We've taken the temperature here on this show. A lot of outstate Minnesotans say, I'll never go to Minnesota, or I'll never go to Minneapolis again. David goes down there every day, feels very safe. My husband is taking me out to dinner there because I want to support the economy tomorrow night in downtown. So should there be a new police department? What should that look like? What do the people of Minneapolis want? Joining us now, and of course he doesn't speak for all of the people of Minneapolis, but we always like to get his thoughts on this, is Stephen Belton, the president and CEO of the Urban League Twin Cities. And Stephen, we appreciate you weighing in on this.
Thanks, Jordana. Well, thanks. I think maybe thanks with a question mark for asking.
Right. This is a hard one.
Thanks, no thanks.
Yeah, thanks, no thanks. It's a hard one, but also you've always set me up to be the spokesperson for the 500,000 people who live in Minneapolis. Happy to do that. I've been waiting for this.
Well, we will not brand you that way. We will not say, so, Stephen, what does all of Minneapolis think? We understand that you cannot do that and you shouldn't do that, and we're not setting you up for that. But you live in Minneapolis. What would you like to see happen with a new model of policing? Yeah,
I'm pretty unabashed that I don't support this charter amendment as it's been drafted and as it's been conceived. And, a key piece of that language that you kind of riffed over was where it says where necessary. In other words, we're going to establish this new Department of Public Safety, and armed police officers will be a part of it if necessary. Now, that may sound like innocuous or language or just legalese, but what it does, in fact, is say that, police department, or at least what we're thinking in terms of the traditional policing function, becomes an option. Now, let me pause at this moment and say categorically that the way policing is performed now, that the culture of policing, all of that has to change. And it's not just tinkering around with it. It isn't a couple of, courses where people hold hands and sing Kumbaya. This is deep, fundamental change that needs to address and root out systemic racism in that department. But to create an ordinance in this time when crime is blowing up, when people are feeling unsafe, and it's not just the people who are outstate, some of whom probably don't come to Minnesota and come to Minneapolis anyway. But it's not just them, Jordan and Paul. It's people who are living in the city, people who are living and who are daily traumatized by violence in this community, to say to them that we're going to pass an ordinance where having traditional policing is an option, if necessary, is problematic. So who gets to decide when it's necessary or when it's appropriate? There's also another piece that's embedded in this charter movement that isn't talked about much, and that is there would be a change to essentially create more authority for the city council, the 13 of those members, over the police department, rather than the mayor. To me, this isn't a decision about whether or not you like the mayor or like the city council. It's a basic management decision. Who in their right mind would put the person in charge of armed forces in this city to have to report to 14 people rather than one? What management expert would tell you that you get greater accountability and greater results having 14 bosses rather than having one? This is simply a misguided, wrong-headed approach, and I don't support it. I think it's bad policy, and it'll be bad for the people of Minneapolis, especially those who are most impacted by crime.
Stephen, I guess I subscribe to that old adage, when all you have is a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail.
Yeah.
I understand that people want change, they want reform. Is there a better way, in your estimation, based on what you know, that you can keep residents feeling safe and at the same time provide the reform and lower the possibility of random traffic stops leading to, fatal encounters? What if you could wave a magic wand and do one thing tomorrow? I realize you can't, but if you could, what would that one thing be?
Great question, Paul. Since I don't have a magic wand, I haven't speculated about this. I don't think that there is a magic bullet or a magic wand approach. I think this requires deliberate efforts, and I think it takes sustained efforts. Let's keep in mind that we're a little over a year out from when George Floyd was murdered, which is what activated much of this. And I think we are all indebted to the grassroots activists who have been pushing this thing forward, who have demonstrated peacefully, regularly, who have engaged with their elected officials, and who are pushing a reform agenda. But the result is not one that I support. What I think needs to happen now is we need to have consistent and persistent conversations about body cameras. I think we need to continue to look at, no-knock warrants. I think we need to address all of these little things, all that are part of the state legislation and federal legislation, and move those forward. And it's not going to happen overnight, and we're probably not going to get all that we want in a single legislative session.
Okay. All right.
Stephen, by the way, our own Henry Lake is listening to you. He says, Mr. Belton is spot on. I'm with him. So you speak for at least two people who live in Minneapolis now, sir.
and I'm launching my mayoral platform right here on this show with 2 votes.
Wait, is that really true? Are you running for mayor?
I'm kidding. Please.
Why would he want that?
I got really excited.
Yeah.
Nice try.
Been there, done that in my house.
It's in the family. It's in the blood.
You got her good, Stephen. Right. You got her good.
You did. And please say hi to Mrs. Mayor when you get a chance. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
God, I got really excited. I'm like, yes, Stephen, that's awesome. I can totally get behind that. That would have been awesome. That's great. But anyway, interesting. I tell you, this idea, this whole idea of how to rethink police, it's not a one-size-fits-all. That's why I like to get these different opinions. I don't know how to do it. Somebody smarter than me does, but what we're doing now isn't working, and we do need change, and that's okay.
If there isn't change, if there isn't renewal and reinvention, you have stagnation and possibly corruption and people taking, advantage of the situation. I think like anything else in life, you can make things better. How do we come together and agree on a consensus of what lowers the temperature, lowers the risk of people being harmed, who shouldn't be harmed during routine traffic stops, etc. And yet, at the end of the day, it has to be safety. How do you keep people safe?
It has to be.
The economy will never get back to what it was if people don't feel safe in Minneapolis or St. Paul.